I declare this congregation to be in session. Would you please remain standing and join with us in singing the traditional graduation song, Gaudeamus, the words of which you'll find at page 10 of the program. Please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, graduands, distinguished guests, including our guests from the New Zealand Institute of Medical Laboratory Science, here to see the first graduates in that discipline this afternoon. E ngā waka, e ngā reo, tēnā koutou I hui hui mai, ki tēnei whare e raro, I te maro o te atua I runga rawa. Koutou kona o whaunau, e tautoko ana, e hare ana. Hei oi anō, haere mai, haere mai, haere mai. It's said that everyone who's old enough remembers precisely what he or she was doing when first they heard of President Kennedy's assassination. And each of us has a few days in our lives, the events of which are so important that they are deeply etched on our memories and they never fade. And the events of this day, your graduation day, will remain with you in that way throughout your lives. So it's with an especial sense of pleasure that on behalf of my council colleagues here present on the platform and the whole of the staff of Massey University, we congratulate each of you. We extend the very warmest of welcomes to this ceremony, a ceremony where we celebrate your graduation, your admission and entry into the Massey family. All of you have earned the right to be present today wearing the colourful academic dress which symbolises the arduous years of learning and research which you've undertaken in your particular discipline. And we include in our celebration and our congratulations your friends and all the members of your family who are with you today, either in person or in spirit, or, and we regret this, assembled out in the foyer. Success in life, however, they are connected by closed-circuit televisions, that's all right. Success in life, especially academic success, is seldom attained without the help of friends and family. And nowadays, that help is often needed in so many more ways and more material ways than before. And we and you, we know, thank all of those who've assisted. It's one of the wonderful characteristics of Massey University that yesterday, I mean quite frequently in graduations we have people calling out, well done mum, well done dad, well done Johnny. But yesterday we had someone who called out, well done grandma. And it's really part of Massey University. Last year we graduated a 15-year-old and an 83-year-old. And the 83-year-old is back studying with us further. But I have to say that as has become commonplace at graduations over the past decade or so, it's appropriate that our salute to your achievements should be seen in the context in which tertiary education in New Zealand, particularly that in the universities, currently operates and will continue to operate. We see one of our principal roles as endeavouring to provide all our staff and students with the best possible atmosphere in which to teach, to learn, and to conduct research. Everyone, we believe, is entitled to maximise the use of their talents. And we see adherence to those principles as being of fundamental importance, not just to the universities, but to New Zealand's future place in the world. But I'd have to say to you that it's increasingly difficult to achieve those goals in the circumstances in which we find ourselves. Let me make it perfectly clear that this is no mindless insistence that we should have more government funding. It's no return to that now thoroughly discredited notion, which was prevalent in New Zealand for so long, that whatever the problem was, government should fix it, and usually by throwing money at it. Massey University has never had that attitude since it became a university, probably before, but my memory doesn't go back as far as that. We have always been innovative in endeavouring to ascertain and locate other sources of funding, to the point where now at least a third of our funding comes from sources other than government. And we've always been competitive in obtaining research contracts and grants from outside government sources. No, our concern is that the atmosphere that we now operate in, with the reductions, with the financial and other constraints, have reached the point that they're threatening our ability to attract the best students, the best staff, to continue to be internationally respected with our qualifications, and we believe may even begin to threaten academic freedom and autonomy. May I give you just one or two examples to illustrate my concerns? First, of course, as we know, student numbers have burgeoned in recent years in New Zealand. Up until the late 1980s, New Zealanders' participation in tertiary education was regrettably low by international standards. Not so now. In the last decade or so, our student numbers have increased by well over 50%. We now have over 29,000 students enrolled, and our extramurals numbers have gone up by over 40% in the same period. We now have only over 60% more academic departments than we had a decade ago, and we offer nearly 3,000 papers, leading to over 240 qualifications. But although government has funded the large increase in student numbers which has occurred over recent years, in order to try and meet the cost of doing so, its funding has been at a progressively lower rate per head. In real terms, funding for the universities has dropped by over a quarter in the past 10 years. And in addition, government has capped the number of full-time equivalent students it's prepared to fund in any particular tertiary institution, so that our 29,000 students translates to about 14,700 full-time equivalents. But because of the cap, we and some of our students, several hundred of them in fact, receive no government funding whatever. The second example to which I wish to refer relates to student fees and to loans. As of course you'd all be aware, government's decided to reduce its tertiary tuition subsidies by 1% per annum from now until the end of the century, so that the current average level of about 80% of course costs is reduced to about 75% by that time. And we have to say the Ministry will give us no absolute guarantee that that 25% contribution will be maintained in the future. We of Massey University have and we will continue to work with students to keep tuition fees as low as possible. But everyone, including government, accepts that further increases in student fees are inevitable as far as anyone can see into the future. Average student fees in New Zealand went, and it's hard to think of it now, but just a decade ago, from an average of $60 a year now to an average of over $2,000 a year. So the only arguments are not whether student fees will increase, but by how much. Even the Minister of Education himself has said that the rise in student fees may deter students from enrolling or re-enrolling in tertiary education. We believe that must never happen. It's a dismaying prospect, but we give our undertaking that we will strive to keep student fee increases as low as we can. And we know in that we have the support of so many people here present who are sporting the green ribbons. In that climate, it's inevitable that there will be increases in student debt, particularly debt from the government student loan scheme. It seems that at least 3/4 of university students are now in debt. An NZUSA survey last year suggests the average student debt jumped by $2,000 in 1 year to quite. And I hesitate to know what it'll be by the time that particular person gets to university. So the average now is about 8,200. The sums involved are vast. The Students' Association says, although I have to say that I treat the figure with a certain amount of reserve, the Students' Association suggests that within a few years, student debt will exceed foreign debt. And those debts are also of major significance for the borrowers. Of course, those people who are here this afternoon. Interest on student loans went up from 7 to 9% this year. Repayments at 10% commence when a student's income reaches a mere $13,800. So from $267 a week, students will pay an effective tax rate of 34%. Those statistics are stark when measured against those of other nations. Australia has no interest. Its threshold of repayments about half. About double, and its repayment rate's about half the New Zealand equivalent. Even the official figures suggest the average male student will take about 15 years to pay off a debt it's estimated to be about $17,000 for a 3-year degree. And for female students, the statistics are much worse. The suggested time is 38 years. Now, may I return to the repeated assumptions that reductions in government funding need not result in student fee increases, that it can all be found from efficiencies. Whilst we acknowledge that over recent years the overall grant totals increased, universities have been required to fund from their own resources a number of payments formerly wholly met by government. Insurance premiums, ACC, superannuation amongst them. That cost last year was over $6 million. At the end of last year, the government suddenly increased the employer's superannuation contribution. We have no quibble with that, of course, but the figure's $650,000. We have to find it from other sources. It's equivalent to about a fifth of the library book vote, and the library, of course, can always do more. It's equivalent to perhaps a dozen or more academic positions with support staff, and our staff-student ratios are all already bad. We don't suggest, as I said before, that those payments should be made by government. We are prepared to shoulder them. But I suggest to you that if the $650,000 here and the $500,000 there or the $1 million somewhere else, in areas which really only indirectly bear on teaching and research, must inevitably, ultimately, erode our ability to continue to maintain our standards. In addition, government seems determined to press forward with the capital charging scheme. That's been around for a few years. It's a proposal that the Crown-owned land and buildings on which the universities sit, or most of them, Albany is not in that category, will be transferred to the tertiary institutions, but then the Crown will charge them what's effectively a rent. The rate has yet to be set, but the maximum is suggested as being as high as 10%. If that were the case, it might cost us over $20 million a year. And it's only too graphically obvious what the imposition of that charge might bring about in our finances if it's not fully compensated. Also, government seems determined to move forward on changing the composition of university councils. And one of the more radical of a number of proposals about is that all or a majority of members should be ministerially appointed in order, they say, to ensure prudence in the management of university assets. We know of no evidence to suggest that there is mismanagement or imprudence in the management of university assets at the moment. All universities oppose that move, not just to maintain the status quo, that would be indefensible, but because universities have a centuries-old right, indeed an obligation, to, and I quote, question and test received wisdom, put forward new ideas, state controversial or unpopular opinions, and to act as the conscience and critic of society. That quote comes from the Education Act. That is our statutory guarantee of university autonomy and academic freedom. But we suggest it's under threat. In addition, there has been a recommendation made that university degrees be placed on the National Qualifications Framework. Harmless enough, you might think, an esoteric subject. But it is of vital importance to the universities because coupled with that suggestion would be the revocation of the current autonomy which we have over setting the courses we offer. That would go to a body on which universities had by far the minority of members. So I suggest to you that in coping with the difficulties and providing the atmosphere that I referred to at the commencement of this address, it really is a remarkable tribute to our staff and to you, our graduating students, that our standards are being maintained, they are being improved, our qualifications do remain internationally respected, and Massey University remains innovative and we believe well prepared to meet the challenges of the next few years. Again, may I just direct your attention to one or two examples of that. The first relates to the physical environment, and particularly the Albany campus. That was a novelty when we opened it 3 years ago. It's now an important and integral part of Massey University under the sage direction of its principal, Professor Ian Watson. This year it has over 1,750 students there, or about 1,400 equivalents. Secondly, there's the amalgamation with the Palmerstonnorth College of Education, recently announced and signed. That will occur at the commencement of next year. It will give us then a third official campus. It will move us significantly nearer our goal of becoming a multi-campus university. Another innovation implemented this year was the change to teaching in semesters. We undertook that change in order to improve the opportunities for learning on the part of students and for teaching and research on the part of staff, and again, that word, for the more efficient use of resources. Suggestions are that it will accomplish those aims. One other example to which the faculties graduating this afternoon hold dear to their hearts is the question of research. Last year, despite the difficulties I've been referring to, we were able to spend $16.5 million on research, and of particular importance, nearly $13.5 million of that sum came from external funding, from private industry, from state agencies, contracts obtained in competition. Part of the challenge for the future is for Massey University, with its applied strengths so prominent, to increase that proportion, to gain a larger share of what is available. But of course, it's the investment in people which is the most important. As all of you will know, we've recently appointed Dr. James McHugh to be our next Vice-Chancellor. He will take over the helm of Massey University at the commencement of next year on the retirement of our current Vice-Chancellor, Dr. Neil Waters, who has served us so outstandingly well. But in addition to that appointment, amongst significant appointments last year was that of Professor Sylvia Rumball as our second woman dean, our first woman dean of science, and how nice it is to see her here participating in this graduation. Mrs. Myrna Thompson, also present, as our first woman assistant vice-chancellor who oversaw the semesterization process, and Professor Stuart McCutcheon as assistant vice-chancellor research, also present, who's putting his individual imprint on that most important area of our activities. May I now focus a little just on the two faculties who are graduating this evening. The first, of course, is the Faculty of Information and Mathematical Sciences. And the highlight of the year has to be, of course, the foundation and the inception, the formal establishment of that faculty to complete the reorganization of the interrelated disciplines of computer science, information science, mathematics, and statistics. It already has a very large enrollment, and it's established an Applied Statistics Consulting Centre to provide a consulting service to researchers throughout the university, Centre for Information Systems Research and Development for commercial consultancy, and a Mathematical Biology Unit, which is a joint research centre to develop mathematical techniques for solving agricultural biology problems, and that's entered into between the university and Ag Research. In science, this too has been a particularly important year. The science faculty celebrated its 30th anniversary last year, but we, along with welcoming Professor Sylvia Rumball, we note the retirement of Professor Jeff Malcolm as Dean of the Faculty for 11 years, 6 years as Associate Dean, a total of some 26 years of service to the university. He's made a very considerable contribution to the faculty and to the university, and it's pleasing to note that his experience and guidance will not be wholly lost to us. We also note with pleasure the award of a Doctorate of Science by the University of Oxford to Professor Paul Callaghan. I believe he's there at the moment receiving it, to go with the award of the Michaelis Memorial Prize from the University of Otago to recognise his valuable original contribution to the field of nuclear magnetic resonance microscopy. And may I also, on the personal area, note the appointment of Professor David Penny to a personal chair, and that of Professor Mike Hendy, also with him, to a personal chair, to recognise their pioneering and widely acclaimed work on evolutionary trees. And the appointment of Dr. Paula Jamieson to the chair and headship of the Department of Plant Biology and Biotechnology. In addition, in science, they are now a department which is having an increasing contribution to Albany. They're offering a major in electronics there. Physics is offered there for the first time this year, and I had the pleasure of going to the laboratory recently. And of course, there's also chemistry and plant biology. And to round it off, where I started, it's pleasing to note the graduation at this ceremony of the first graduates in the degree of the Bachelor of Medical Laboratory Science. So I suggest to you, from such a rapid overview of what's happened with Massey University in the last year, that you'll readily appreciate that Massey University and its hard-working staff have done everything possible to assist you in your studies and research, and will continue to do all they can to maintain and improve the standards and the standing of your university. But all of that would have been as of nothing without your efforts, because the student population of any university is its absolute lifeblood. Every one of you here present has worked hard and long to be entitled to occupy the seats where now you sit. Each graduate, each diplomate, each family member on this day, which is above all others your day, should be as proud as we are to be members of the community of scholars which is Massey University. A couple of days ago, when I was returning from the marquee to another graduation ceremony, wearing what I'm wearing now, there were two young folk ahead of me, and one said to the other, "Gee, look at that one. His lot's even fancier than all the others." To which his companion replied, "Yes, you idiot, he's the capping dude." So on behalf of my council colleagues and the staff of Massey University, the capping dude extends to each one of you our very warmest congratulations. You would not be like H.L. Mencken with his acid tongue, who described Rotary as a gathering of self-made men got together to praise their makers. You would wear your learning much more lightly than that. And may I close by quoting to you Sir Joshua Reynolds, who said, "If you have great talents, industry will improve them. If you have but moderate abilities, industry will supply their deficiency." It was put rather more pungently by my first employer, who had a considerable legal practice, and when I first qualified, I went to him and said, "How does one succeed in law?" He looked at me and said, "You need to be brilliant or diligent. You're not brilliant." Which is a good way to get a bit more work out of me. So as I said, the capping dude extends his and our warmest congratulations to you. We welcome you today into the Massey family. May your Massey University qualification bring you the happiness and good fortune your efforts so richly deserve. Kati ko oti na takimo tene wa, ma te atua tatu e tiaki e manaki, tino koutu, tino koutu, tino koutu katoa. By the authority of the Council of Massey University, I, John Hugh Williams, Chancellor, will now award the certificates and diplomas and confer the degrees on those about to be presented and those listed as being in absentia. Mr. Vice-Chancellor.
Mr. Chancellor, the Dean of the Faculty of Information and Mathematical Sciences and the Dean of the Faculty of Science will present to you graduands and recipients of certificates and diplomas in their respective faculties.
Mr. Chancellor, I have the honour to present for graduation in the degree of Bachelor of Science endorsed in Mathematical and Information Sciences, the graduands I'm about to name. Frances Jane Krisnisic. Grant John Probert. Mr. Chancellor, the Diploma in Applied Statistics is awarded to those listed as in absentia. Thank you, Mr. Chancellor.
Now, for the last time, in his capacity as Vice-Chancellor at a Massey graduation, it is my pleasure to invite Dr. Waters to address the graduates.
Mr. Chancellor, graduands, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, it is in the way of these ceremonies that just as it seems as if things are getting started and might, after all, get finished in time for dinner, someone gets up to deliver a speech. And I am that someone this afternoon, but please don't blame me, blame the University Marshal. Once behind the mace, he's capable of anything. There's something psychological in it, I suspect. However, Mr. Chancellor, I do now have the opportunity to join you in extending congratulations to our graduands. It is always a pleasure to do this, but a special pleasure to extend the university's best wishes to those graduating in science, which I take in the broad sense to refer to you all. My own Faculty of Science from another place included mathematics and statistics in its membership, although not computer science and information science, which had not been dreamed of in that distant past. This is the day on which you become lifelong members of Massey University. I hope that firstly, you get as much from your association with this university as I have, and that secondly, you will go on to do great things which will make us all proud to have been present at your graduation. It was pleasing and I think significant to find one of this country's leading scientists being recently declared New Zealander of the Year. Not a sports personality, a pop artist, or a TV personality, but a scientist. On all grounds right and proper, of course, but still, in a country which is only just coming to grips with some of the realities of the modern world, an astounding decision, I thought. You know, and I know, that science is exciting, that science is empowering, and that only science and its accompanying technology can now keep us all from famine, disease, and environmental disaster. Only science can open to us the wonders of the molecular world on which we all depend, indeed on which we are constructed, and only science can open to us the wonders of the universe. Might it be that in your day we will finally understand the mysteries of creating life itself? The answer is surely yes. And might it be that in your day we will also come to understand the mysteries of the universe? And again, the answer is likely to be yes. Will we detect evidence of other civilizations in other places? Will we find a way to do a Captain Kirk, the Star Trek one that is, a way to warp our way through time to distant parts of the galaxy? Those of you who have studied physics will now be starting to feel uneasy, as everyone knows that nothing travels faster than light, that the distances in the galaxy, let alone the universe, are unbelievably large, and that the task of keeping a complicated biological organism alive in the conditions of outer space almost impossible. I say these things not to suggest that you will be able to holiday on the moon in a couple of years, but to make the point that, firstly, humans thrive on challenges, and that, secondly, you should take nothing for granted, even in science. All chemists knew when I was a student that the rare gases did not form molecular compounds. Not only was it a proven experimental fact, but we knew from atomic theory why they could not. As scientists, we were very reassured by the theory, and it was firmly believed that these gases not only didn't form compounds, but couldn't and wouldn't. So, when a chemist made some, it was a considerable time before anyone would believe him. And there, at that time, was Fred Hoyle, a greatly respected guru of continuous creation in his day, speaking in 1955. How then can fossil tropical plants be accounted for in Greenland? Certainly not through continents floating on the surface of the earth. How rock 35 kilometers thick could contrive to move is something that has never been explained. We need scarcely take the notion seriously. And Lord Kelvin, from an older generation, but the leading scientist of his day, he was another who spread himself. As well as asserting that X-rays would prove to be a hoax, he equally forthrightly declared that radio has no future. And in my own lifetime, Frank Whittle was silly enough to show his design for a jet engine to the Professor of Aeronautical Engineering at the University of Cambridge, to be told, "Interesting, my boy, it will never work." And neither J.B.S. Haldane, Robert Mulliken, or Ernest Rutherford, all heroic figures in science, none of them believed in the possibility of atomic power. As Niels Bohr so pertinently said, prediction is very difficult, especially about the future. My point is that, as a scientist, you should take nothing for granted. I doubt if quantum theory is the last word on the world of the infinitely small, stunningly successful though it has been. And is Einstein really right about the infinitely large? Nearly right, of course, but I will hazard the guess that there are more insights to come. You will not all be the new Einstein, but none of you will be, whether mathematician or physicist, unless you are prepared to keep an open mind and to think for yourselves. You should always be receptive to new ideas and willing to question the wisdom of the day. But, another but when you do so, you should not be silly and come over all New Age. You should be rational and scientific, testing ideas rigorously without preconceptions. Science is having a renaissance at this moment, and you are fortunate that you are entering the workforce at a time when positions are once more becoming available, when governments accept that scientific leadership is crucial, and when the private sector is beginning to value both scientific thought and scientific methodology. But do not take any of this for granted. An increasingly sophisticated public is no longer prepared to accept, without question, that what scientists do is necessarily pure and good. Far from it, as you'll know. Nor are the public prepared to fund scientists to do exactly what they want to do without thought for the consequences, which was a situation which more or less prevailed when I was a student. Scientific wisdom in those days declared that one must always follow the science regardless of the outcome. Science, it was said, was always ethically neutral and could not, therefore, be bad. It was often, on the other hand, thought to be good, I recall, but these inconsistencies didn't worry us in those glorious gee-whiz days after the Second World War. You will not need to be told that, although science may be neutral, the results of science are not, and that the scientist has responsibility for the ethical outcome of what is done. One of the things which worries me about the modern tendency to equate science with economic performance, and I can understand the reasoning for this, what worries me is that the imperatives of commerce, the need to make a profit, may override wider moral considerations. And indeed, the reprehensible uses to which science and technology are sometimes put are always the consequence of human greed or the human urge for control and power. Science is in fact a very human activity in this sense, and it is essential that scientists, such as yourselves, apply to it the highest standards of human behavior and do not assume that it is someone else's task to deal with the philosophical issues. Scientists need to be not only clever thinkers, but clear thinkers. Let me illustrate this point about smart thinking with the story about the presence of mind shown by a famous warden of Wadham College in Oxford, Sir Maurice Bowra, who was later also Vice-Chancellor of the university. There is a swimming hole on the Cherwell River which runs through Oxford, and this was reserved for male nude bathing. One afternoon, Bowra and a group of lecturers were swimming there when a boat full of young women blundered through the area. There was a mad scramble for the bank as all the men grabbed towels and held them around their waists. All the men, that is, except Bowra. He held his towel over his head. "What on earth are you doing?" gasped one of his companions. "I don't know about you, gentlemen," replied Bowra, "but in Oxford I am known by my face." This quick thinking, Mr. Chancellor, is obviously the mark of the Chief Executive, but may it also be the mark of this afternoon's graduands. I am absolutely convinced that only science now holds the key to our continued successful habitation of this planet. With it, we can control the population, grow enough food, supply the required energy, and restore and sustain the environment. Without rational policies to accomplish these things, a century of unimaginable misery and degradation lies ahead, which will make the atrocities of the past, some of which we commemorated last week, seem like a picnic. You are in the vanguard of this effort. You are not an elite in an ivory tower, watching the outside world sink into chaos. Whether you be chemist or statistician, biologist or computer scientist, you are in the front line, fighting for sanity and equity and a peaceful and fulfilling life for everyone. Science has left the back room, and you must join it in the battle for human survival and dignity. The front line is not just in the laboratory or the office, but in schools, in business, in politics. I hope that you will not think that you always have to do science. It is equally necessary that you take science and its sanity and rational inquiry into the life of the country. Scientists of the world, unite, it might be said, you have nothing to lose but your grants, and you'll make more money in business anyway. But let it be ethical business. In short, be a leader. Raise your sights to the challenges ahead and be a new kind of leader. Act with courage, commitment and professionalism as you help carry us into the next century as a country with its problems well on the way to solution and its future secure. That is the challenge before you, as it is before every graduate of Massey University. Mr. Chancellor, it is a privilege to have this opportunity to salute our graduates. I hope that they and their families and friends will get much enjoyment and satisfaction from the achievements we mark this afternoon, and that they will go on to be the movers and shakers of our country in a way which will give us cause to bless their names and to remember them with special pride. There are 5 tests of a good education as enunciated by a prominent American educator, and it applies to scientists, or they apply to scientists as much as they do to those in the humanities or the professions. And the tests are correctness and precision in the use of language, consideration for others and good manners, the appreciation of beauty and worth, the habit of reflection, and the power to get things done. I like to think that the last test especially marks the Massey University graduate. May you all get great things done. Mr. Chancellor, our graduates are our hope for the future. The university has given them knowledge. May life grant them experience. We have given them the keys to power. May they exercise it with integrity. We have given them the taste for action and achievement. May God grant them wisdom and peace. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Waters. We'll now proceed with the conferment of degrees and the award of university diplomas and certificates.
Mr. Chancellor, I have the honour to present for the award of the Science Certificate the candidate I am about to name, Zersha Roimata Forimate Ne Matthews. Mr. Chancellor, the Science Certificate is also awarded to those listed as an absentia. Mr. Chancellor, I have the honour to present for graduation in the degree of Bachelor of Science the graduands I am about to name. Stuart Laird Aiken. Nicholas Frederick Alsop. Jacinda Louise Orwood. Damaris Molly Anderson. No, it's not. Paul Andrews, Massey Scholar. Michelle Louise Armstrong. Ruth Jocelyn Baldwin, Massey Scholar. Paul Anthony Barrett. Christine Robin Baylor. Ian Robert Beale, Massey Scholar. Francis Anelli Bennett. Raylene Joy Berry. Deborah Catherine Ann Birch. Daryl Stephen Birchler. Peter Andrew Bishop. Derek John Bodie. Victoria Fulton Bohm. Glenda Bernice Bonganar. Christine Lavinia Booth. Kirsten Jane Bork. Hannah Lima Brackley. Anna Joan Brookie. Alison Elizabeth Brown. Toby Ellen Burge. Rhonda Suzanne Byrne. Dion Philip Burns. Rachel Michelle Burns. Andrew John Byers, Wayne Mason Campbell, Brian Shusing Cheng, Brendan Rex Christensen, Peter Raymond Farnall Church, Kevin Henry Clark. Damaris, yes, next up now. Damaris Molly Anderson Neyburrows. Nicola Rachel Coffey. Kim Alexandra Colden Fussell, Massey Scholar. No. Oh. Francis Nicola Cobberford. Donna Marie Cooper, Massey Scholar. Karen Ann Cosgrave. Anna Victoria Cooper. John Gerald Clayton Cray. Tracy Lee Creswell. Julie Helen Curtis. Catherine Jean Day. Joanne Margaret Dobson. Patrick Guy Downey. Kathleen Margaret Duncan. Robin Dijkstra, Massey Scholar. Brad Hayden Edwards. John Gordon Ewan. Stacey Elizabeth Farmer. David John Farrelly. Kirsty Jane Ferguson. Louisa Jane Fisher. Julie Marie Fitzpatrick. Simone Marie Flight. Martha Jane Flynn. Daphne Mary So Fung Fong. Karen Patricia Forno. David Neil Forsyth. Michael Edward Foss. Sean Darrell Fraser. Nicola Jane Frierson. Catherine Joy Frith. Catherine Jean Fry. Okay. Stephen Anthony Gardner. Lynn Bettina Gestro. Richard John Gilbert. Stephen John Glanville. James Edward Kilford Goderich. Andrew Ronald Gray. Tania Simone Graves. Simon David Griffiths. Glenn John Groves. Christopher Lee Guy, Jodan Leanne Harnor, Andrew Bedett Harrison, Michelle Marie Hayes, Belinda Jane Hayes, Christopher William Henderson, Scott David Hurd, Hirani Louise Himona, Stanley Peter Hoare, Raina Hoffman, Denise Jane Hudson, David Hughes, David Malcolm Hurst, Lisa Marie Inglis, Jacob Lawrence Irwin, Bridget Zoe Jamison, Karen Patricia Joblin, Daniel Jeremiah Johnson, Stuart Roy Johnson, Xanthi Anna Johnson, Gregor Alexander Johnston, Stephen Charles Johnston, Massey Scholar, Lorraine Ann Jones, Michiko Kakubayashi, Ian Nigel Kemp, James Richard Kennedy Moffat, Duncan Niall Killiner, Wayne Frederick Leach, Anna Elizabeth Leslie, Megan Jane Leyland, Simon James Liggett, Trevor Stephen Liu, Marcus William Richard Lund, Christine Louise Massey Scholar, Carla Ann Main, Claire Nairi Marsh, Rochelle K. Marshall, Paul Christopher Martin, Adrian Gordon McDermott, Mariah Julia Maguire, Philippa Jane Miller, Simone Carol Morrison, Teresa Mary Murphy, Jennifer Dawn Neal, Julie Ann Nelms, Joanna Mary Nelson, Nicole Newton, Andrew James Norman, Erina Tania Nardine Olsen, Catherine Jane Olsen, Jeffrey Michael Buckland Orbell, Natasha Olivish, Matthew William Osborne, Rebecca Mary Osborne, Stephanie Mary Oates, James Gibson Overington, Shelley Ruth Paiwai, Nicola Jane Patrick. Monique Suzanne Patterson, Stephanie Ian Person, Stephen Ian Person, Catherine Judith Pinfold, Adam Stefan Polazic, Fiona Patricia Prince, Douglas Roger Scott Pringle, Rachel Gwendolyn Ray, Ravindran Rajasundaram, Deborah Marie Rayner, Grant Redvers, Linus William Marara Reader, Karnum Riddler, Philippa Jane Robinson, Rebecca Jane Sanders, Sarah Lee Schmidt. Vicky Jan Shakespeare, Jane Catherine Sherrard, David Crispin Simcock, Matthew Edward Telling Simcox, Elizabeth Mary Syme née Fox, Nicholas James Drysdale Singers, Glenda Jean Skinner née Webb, Kylie Jane Smith, Simon John Stokes, Louise Valerie Stormont, Sunita Felicia Marie Strong, Christopher Reeve Tate, Nicholas James Tate, Andrew Kenneth Taylor, Jeremy Nathan Taylor, Joanne Lee Thacker, Jacqueline Mary Thomas, Shane Kylie Thorne, Sarah Elizabeth Todd, Sandra Janine Tulloch, Valerie Van Bergel, David Paul van der Water, Angela Corinne van Diepen, Richard Marinus van la Veth, Michael Douglas Vautier, Simon Eugene Wegerveld, Ashley Wayne Walker, Tamsin Elizabeth Ward-Smith, Estelle Iracini Warner, Timothy Charles Webster, Erica Vesselink, Catherine Ann Whittaker, Brendan John Woodhead, Susan Kate Woodhouse, Paul Mason Woodley, Scott Jason Woods, Jane Margaret Wyatt, Catherine Young, Jane Young. Mr. Chancellor, the degree of Bachelor of Science is also conferred on those who are listed as in absentia. Mr. Chancellor, I have the honour to present for graduation in the degree of Bachelor of Medical Laboratory Science the graduands I am about to name. Catherine Ann Bridson, Helen Ruth Daniel, Shay Gordon Deering, Rochelle Annette Dudley with distinction, Stacey Jane Hurley, Shelley Ann Irving, Anne Ellison Jamison, Lisa Margaret Jorgensen with distinction, Massey Scholar. Sarah Jane Lee née Tombleson, Catherine Lois Marson with distinction, Reuben John Martin, Andrew James Milne, John Paul Moody, Julia Catherine Michelle Peterson, Belinda Jane Riley née Sutter, Claire Louise Robson, Rochelle Margaret Roxburgh, Deborah Joy Venimore. Mr. Chancellor, I have the honour to present for graduation in the degree of Bachelor of Science with Honours the graduands I am about to name. Ross David Adamson, First Class Honours, Doctoral Scholarship. Paul Andrews, First Class Honours, Doctoral Scholarship. Judith Clark nay Whitfield, second class honours. Matthew Peter Cole, second class honours. Corin Dean Grant, first class honours, masterate scholarship. Anna Elizabeth Jeffries, first class honours, masterate scholarship. Andrea Leslie Knox, first class honours, doctoral scholarship. Suzanne Elfrida Kopechny, first class honours. Annalisa Maniton, first class honours. Jay McCartney, second class honours. Bennett James McComish, second class honours. Craig Gordon Morley, first class honours, doctoral scholarship. Gail Suzanne Petty, first class honours, doctoral scholarship. Matthew John Pitchforth, first class honours. Robert Francis Poynton, first class honours, doctoral scholarship. Paul Robert Thomas Reed, second class honours. Jonathan Kelvin Fletcher Roygard, second class honours. Linda Joyce Sharp, first class honours, doctoral scholarship. Mr. Chancellor, the degree of Bachelor of Science with honours is also conferred on those who are listed as in absentia. Mr. Chancellor, I have the honour to present for the Diploma in Science the candidates I am about to name. Stuart Laird Aiken. Daniel John Paul Hampton. Nicola Mari Kinghorn with distinction. Matthew Russell Lambeth. Austin James Selwyn Parker with distinction. Elaine Patterson with distinction. Robert Dean Sutherland with distinction. Lisa Marie Winder with distinction. Zhu Ying Zhu. Mr. Chancellor, the Diploma in Science is also awarded to those who are listed as in absentia. Mr. Chancellor, I have the honour to present for graduation in the degree of Master of Science the graduands I am about to name. Malcolm Colin Bowling, second class honours. Gary Neil Bramley, first class honours. Kirsty Jane Farrant, first class honours. Alison Joy Franklin. Peter Lance Godfrey, second class honours. Alan Norman John Guy, second class honours. Joanna Lee Harris, second class honours. Jonathan Roger Graham Miles, second class honours. Ian Linton Moore, first class honours, doctoral scholarship. Vanessa Margaret Winona Munro, first class honours. Christopher Charles Palliser, first class honours. Grace Elizabeth Richards, second class honours. Richard Malcolm Syme, second class honours. Howard Russell Smith. Jacqueline Ann Townsend, second class honours. John Kim Williams, second class honours. Mr. Chancellor, the degree of Master of Science is also conferred on the candidate listed as an absentia. Mr. Chancellor, I have the honour to present for graduation in the degree of Master of Philosophy the graduand I am about to name. Ross Raymond Lawrence. Thank you, Mr. Chancellor.
Mr. Chancellor, I have the honour to present for graduation in the degree of Doctor of Philosophy the graduands I am about to name. Glenda Joy Anthony. Ms. Anthony graduated Bachelor of Science with honours in Statistics and Master of Philosophy with distinction in Mathematics, both from Massey University. Ms. Anthony's doctoral research examined the strategic learning behaviours of secondary school mathematics students. The study highlights the passive nature of many students' learning behaviours, their lack of awareness of appropriate strategies, and their inappropriate beliefs and learning goals. Without the ability to monitor and control their learning, successful students are more likely to use self-explanations, planning, accurate monitoring, and self-evaluation strategies. In addition, more successful students are able to modify their learning tasks, know when it is appropriate to seek help, and adapt their physical and social learning environment to optimize learning opportunities. In view of the fact that the current curriculum expects learners to take more responsibility for actively constructing their own knowledge, it is important that mathematics instruction promotes and supports the development of appropriate learning strategies. Ms. Anthony is currently a lecturer in the Department of Mathematics at Massey University. Michael Anthony Collett. Mr. Collett graduated Bachelor of Science with honours from the University of Canterbury in 1990. His research focused on one aspect of the molecular genetics of a symbiotic relationship between perennial ryegrass and a fungus which lives within the grass. In particular, he carried out a detailed molecular analysis of a gene which is a useful genetic and biochemical marker in the symbiosis. He also investigated the evolution of this gene and demonstrated that certain strains of the fungus were hybrids of other fungal species. The results of this work have important implications for future studies involving genetic manipulation of this organism and the evolution of the plant-fungus association. Mr. Collett is currently a postdoctoral fellow in the Department of Microbiology and Genetics at Massey University. Michael Kevin Edmonds. Mr. Edmonds graduated from Massey University in 1990 with Bachelor of Science with honours. His research involved the successful development of a methodology for the synthesis of the E-ring substructure of selenomycin, which is a polyether antibiotic currently used in veterinary medicine. Selenomycin is also a growth-promoting agent which is commonly used throughout the beef industry. In addition to allowing a total synthesis of selenomycin, the methodology has applications in the synthesis of other polyether antibiotics and the acetogenin family of compounds. Knowledge of this methodology is important as both of these agents have potent anti-cancer and pesticidal properties. Mr. Edmonds is currently employed by the Department of Chemistry at Massey University. Robert Donald Lynn. Mr. Lynn graduated Bachelor of Arts with honours and Master of Arts in 1990 from Massey University. His thesis focused on the problem of classifying objects on the basis of measured characteristics or explanatory variables. Traditional approaches to this problem establish statistical models to determine the explanatory variables. These methods are known to be accurate, provided the basic hypotheses are correct. Unfortunately, however, researchers never know whether their data fully satisfy these hypotheses, and they only have access to a sample of measurements. In the present research, the accuracy of traditional methods was compared with more recent approaches which rely on computer-intensive algorithms. Decision tree methods, which are techniques to successively partition the data set into subgroups, were studied intensively. Studies were carried out on a real and simulated data set to compare the efficacy of traditional versus sequential tree methods in a wide variety of situations, and recommendations were made on which approach to use in particular situations. Mr. Lynn is currently a statistical advisor for the Ministry of Health in Wellington. Ashok Neil Parbu. Mr. Parbu graduated Master of Science with first-class honours from Massey University in 1990. His research was concerned with the nature of the intra- and intermicellar forces governing the liquid crystal phase behaviour of aqueous solutions of disc-like micelles formed as a result of the self-association of perfluorinated carboxylic acid molecules. The phase behaviour was characterized using deuterium and cesium nuclear magnetic resonance spectroscopy, and structural information was obtained from small-angle X-ray scattering experiments undertaken at Leeds University in 1991. The major finding of the research was that in these complex liquid crystals, the phase transitions are driven by hard particle interactions, just as they are in more simple thermotropic liquid crystal systems. This suggests that the behavior can be understood in terms of changes to the self-assembly of the perfluorinated carboxylic acid molecules in response to changes in concentration and temperature. Mr. Parbu is currently a research scientist at the Forestry Research Institute, Rotorua. Julian Robert Reed. Mr. Reed graduated Batchelor of Science with first-class honours in biochemistry from Massey University in 1991. His doctoral research involved a study of enzymes involved in the breakdown of milk proteins during the manufacture of cheese and other dairy products. The enzymes are produced by the lactic acid bacteria added as starters to initiate the fermentation of milk in the cheese-making process. The study investigated the mechanism whereby proteolytic enzymes produced by different strains of starter bacteria can differ in the manner in which they destroy the casein proteins of milk. The findings have implications for understanding the differences in flavour and other characteristics of dairy products made using different strains of starter bacteria. Mr. Reed is now working as a scientist at the New Zealand Dairy Research Institute. Leslie Louise Rhodes. Ms. Rhodes graduated Bachelor of Science and Diploma in Plant Science, both from Massey University, and as a Master of Applied Science from Lincoln University in 1988. Ms. Rhodes began PhD studies after being appointed a scientist at the Cawthron Institute, Nelson. Her studies centered around the little-known plant group of microalgae, the primnesiophytes. These microalgae contribute to toxic bloom, which are population explosions of microalgae and other organisms that have adverse consequences for marine life. The taxonomy of New Zealand representatives collected from around the New Zealand coastline was studied by the assessment of characteristics displayed in surface structures as visualized by electron microscopy, by cellular and extracellular biochemical processes, lectin binding properties, and toxin production. Assessment of these characteristics allowed comparisons to be made with primnesiophytes from other parts of the world. population data, growth requirements in pure culture, and the ecology of Primnesia relative to bloom formation were studied during the course of recent toxic algal blooms in New Zealand waters. Ms. Rhodes will continue as a research scientist at the Cawthron Institute. Sivalingam Sivakumaran. Mr. Sivakumaran graduated Bachelor of Science with first class honours from the University of Agricultural Sciences, Bangalore, India in 1984, and Master of Science with first class honours from the Tamil Nadu Agricultural University, Coimbatore, India in 1987. Mr. Sivakumaran investigated the identity of soil bacteria which express the presence or absence of nodulation genes in the bacteria normally used to inoculate white clover seed, Rhizobium leguminosarum. It was hypothesized that in the soil, this genetic information could be transferred to a range of other bacterial species. The results showed that all the bacteria identified were strains of Rhizobium, and they currently lacked nodulation genes. In addition, the results also revealed that soils from Manawatu pastures contained an unexpected variety of Rhizobium species, including some which have not been previously described. These observations have implications for the success of commercial seed inoculation. Mr. Sivakumaran expects to go on to Eastern University, Sri Lanka, to a position as senior lecturer in agricultural biology. Julie Ann Spicer. Ms. Spicer graduated Bachelor of Science with first class honours from Massey University in 1991. Ms. Spicer's research for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy involved the application of synthetic organic chemistry in the investigation of a cold storage disorder which affects apples. This is known as superficial scald and is similar to freezer burn, which commonly occurs during the rapid chilling of food. Some of the aims of the research were to investigate the chemical changes associated with superficial scald, which occur within apples when they are chilled to low temperatures. The results show that certain compounds derived from the sesquiterpene alpha-farnesene are implicated in the initiation of this disorder. This knowledge allows the identification of these compounds in apples which have undergone cold storage and are likely to spoil. The findings have implications for the manner in which apples are chilled for export to overseas destinations. Ms. Spicer is currently a postdoctoral fellow at the University of Auckland. Mr. Chancellor, the degree of Doctor of Philosophy is also conferred on the candidate listed as in absentia. Thank you, Mr. Chancellor.
Before I draw this congregation to a close, may I just tender thanks to a number of persons who have assisted over the past 3 days and made these 9 graduation ceremonies such a wonderful success and a scene of jubilation for all. The first persons I'd like to thank are the University Marshal, Professor Nigel Long, and the Assistant Marshals, Ms. Andrea McElroy and Dr. Ruth Anderson. They have led us in, they've led us out, they've led us down the road. In those endeavours, at least, we've known what they were doing, but I can assure you we never know what the music is that they've chosen for us to come in by. But they've looked after us very well, they've run the sessions very well, and our thanks are due to them. Secondly, I'd like to thank the Assistant Registrar Examinations, Mr. Butson, and his team of ushers and persons who have managed the Opera House during the past 3 days. Their efforts have been unobtrusive but extremely effective, and we would like to thank every one of those who've assisted. Some have been here right through all 9 sessions and still protest that they're enjoying it. Thirdly, I'd like to thank Mrs. Shirley Crothers, whose hospitality you will enjoy when you get to the marquee at the conclusion of this ceremony, and those who've assisted us there. The marquee functions run by the Alumni Association are a signal part of our graduation sessions. And finally, I'd like to thank my council colleagues, a number of whom have been to all 9 sessions and have had to sit and listen to me speak on 9 occasions, with every vestige of interest in every word. But I do thank them for their support, and I also thank the academic staff who've come along to the various congregations. The procession is on, so at the conclusion of the session, the academic staff and then the graduates will form up directly outside the Opera House in Church Street. Would other members of the congregation present, family and friends, please remain in their seats until the graduates have withdrawn in order to avoid a traffic jam. We will process down Church Street, turn right into the square and down to the marquee, which is being jointly paid for by the Palmerston-North City Council and the Alumni Association. And may I commend to graduates the Alumni Association, which is an important aspect of university life. It enables you to keep in touch with the university and with your friends and colleagues, and enables us to keep in touch with you, something which is of increasing importance. All persons present are very warmly welcomed to the marquee, where there will be refreshments available. And you'll have the opportunity to mingle with staff and your former lecturers and express your views to them on a somewhat more equal basis than before. Don't feel at all bashful if members of the academic staff insist on having their photographs taken with you. That's a natural feeling that they will have for you. And if any of you feels vice versa, don't feel bashful about that either. We've had 3 wonderful days and 9 wonderful congregations. We've graduated a record number of graduates from Massey University, and it's now my privilege to declare this congregation to be adjourned. Would you please stand and join with us in singing the national anthem, God Defend New Zealand, also to be found on page 10 of the booklet.
you.